morning children. Today we are going to discuss about how the organism reproduce. See the picture. First seedling of the plants. It growing for vegetative and reproductive parts. The vegetative part of plants, root, stem and leaf. The reproductive parts, that is called as the reproduction of male and female. Male reproductive part, that's called as the stamen, anther. Female reproductive part, that's called as the ovary, pistil, egg. The another one is a human reproduction, discussed about later. How do organisms reproduce? Before we discuss the mechanism by which organism reproduce, let us ask a more basic questions. Why organism reproduce? After all, reproduction is not necessary to maintain the life of an individual organism. Unlike the essential life process such as nutrition, respiration or excretion. On the other hand, in an individual organism is going to create more individuals, a lot of its energy will be sent in the process. So, why should an individual organism waste energy on a process it does not need to stay alive? It would be interesting to discuss the possible answer in the classroom. Whatever the answer to the question, this is obvious that we notice organism because they reproduce. If there were to be only one non-reproducing member of particular kind, it is doubtful that we would have noticed his existence. It is the large number of organisms belonging to a single species that bring them to our notice. How do we know that two different individual organisms belonging to the same species? Usually we say this because they look similar to each other. Thus reproduce the organism, create a new individual that look like very much like themselves. How do organisms reproduce? Characters of reproduction. Reproduction maintain the continuity of life. By reproduction, life prepares itself. Each new organism develops from a fragment of protoplasm, divide from one parent from fragments, divide from two parents, male and female. Reproduction is specific. A dog produces pups. A neem seedling is produced from new neem tree. Human being produce infant of its own type. Thus, each species produce only its own kids. Reproduction is cellular. Each organism being alive from one or several cells. These cells are derived from parental generation. Reproduction is developmental. Dog, cat, parrot, they all have body which is complex in structure. A dog pup which is equally complex as adult dog is not produced as such directly. It develops from a single cell. This cell is capable of becoming a pup. Thus, between this cell and pup, there occur long process of development. Plants and animals manage to make copies of themselves from one generation to the next. Scientists knew that genes carried the hereditary characters by means of substance inside the nucleus of the cell. But how was this done? The mystery was gradually revealed from the early 1940s to the early 1960s. Genes are made up of DNA, that's called as a deoxyribonucleic acid, which carry the blueprint of inheritance. Importance of variation. Usually the DNA copying, which is an essential feature of reproduction, remains consistent generation after generation. This helps the offspring to adapt in the particular kind of niche. However, there are changes that niches can change due to reasons beyond the control of the organism. The changes may be in the form of increased temperature on Earth, varying water levels, or any other ecological disbalance. Under such condition, any alternation in the particular kind of niche is surely going to hit the consistent population. The population of species may be wiped out due to the sudden alteration of niches. There are change in DNA copying resulting in the production of such organisms which are suited in the changed niches. If a population of reproduction organism achieve such incredible changes which help them to survive under changed niches, then the organism have changes to survive. In case if the organism has not changed and the niche has altered drastically, then the organism is surely going to be wiped out. For example, a population of bacteria growing in temperate water and has developed an environmental harmony. Suppose the temperature of water somehow increase due to global warming, then the bacteria will definitely die. However, only those will survive which have developed resistance to heat. Variation are the useful for survival of species over time. Reproduction. Reproduction. Reproduction is the process by which living organisms produce new individuals of the same species. Reproduction is necessary for the survival and increasing in the population of a species. If organisms do not reproduce, their population decreases and species will become extinct. Do organisms create carbon copies of themselves? The DNA molecules in the chromosome in the nucleus is responsible for the transfer of characters from the parents to the offspring. During reproduction, the reproductive cells produce two copies of the DNA which separated into two cells. The DNA copies will be similar but not identical to each other. So, the new individuals have slight variation from their parent. This is the basic for variation and evolution of new species. Types of reproduction. There are two main types of reproduction in a living organism. They are asexual and sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is reproduction in which new individuals are produced from a single parent. Sexual reproduction is reproduction in which two individuals are involved to produce a new individual. Asexual reproduction is of different type. There are fission, budding, regeneration, fragmentation, spore formation, vegetative propagation. See the picture for the reproduction. Fission. Fission is an asexual reproduction by which a unicellular organism divides and forms two or more new individuals. Fission is of two types. There are binary fission and multiple fission. Binary fission. In this method, an organism divides and forms two individuals. First, the nucleus division and form two nuclei. There are cytoplasm divides and form two daughter cells. Example, amoeba, paramecium, etc. Multiple fission. In this method, one organism divides into many daughter cells. Example, plasmodium. That's called as a malarial parasite. Budding. In this method, a bud-like projection is formed on the body of the organism. The bud then develops into a new individual. It then separates from the parent and form an independent individuals. Example, hydra and yeast. Some extra. Yeast is using for bread making and the another one, regeneration. In this method, a part of the body, if the organism is cut or broken, can develop into a new individual. Example, hydra, planaria, starfish, etc. See the picture. And fragmentation. In this method, the body of a simple unicellular organism break up into a smaller pieces on maturation, and each fragment develop into new individuals. Example, Spirogyra. That's called as a blue-green algae. And spore formation. In this method, structure called as sporangia produce thin cells called spores. When the spores comes in contact with the moist surface, it develops into new individuals. Example, rhizopus, mucor, penicillium, etc. The penicillium is getting from Penicillium notatum, the antibiotics. Vegetative propagation. In this method, new plants are produced from the vegetative part of the plant like root, stem or leaf. Example, from root, dahlia, sweet potato, from stem, potato, ginger, from leaf, bryophyllum. Begonia, plant produced by vegetative propagation, produce flowers and fruits earlier than those produced from seeds. It also helps in the propagation of plants which do not produce seeds like rose, jasmine, banana, etc. Vegetative propagation can also be done artificially by cutting, layering and grafting. See the picture, the vegetative propagation of bryophylla. Artificial vegetative propagation. Artificial vegetative propagation is the deliberate production of new plants from parts of old plants by humans. This can be done follow layering. In this method,
A young branch is bent and pressed into the moist soil. After some time, root develops from the covered part. This is called layer. Now, the branch can be cut from the parent and a new plant is produced. This method is used to propagate plants such as jasmine, black raspberries. Cutting. In this method, a healthy young one branch with a few nodes and internodes is cut off and most of its leaves are removed. Now the cut end is stuck into some good moist soil. Care is taken that the soil remain moist. The cutting will then develop roots and grow into a new plant. This method is used to propagate plants like rose, sugarcane and pineapple. Grafting is a horticulture technique whereby tissues of plants are joined so as to continue their growth together. The upper part of the combined plant is called the scion, while the lower part is called the rootstock. Nowadays using for mango also grafted. The single plant producing more number of variety fruits using for grafting techniques. Tissue culture. Using tissue culture, sometimes called micropropagation, tiny fragments of plants are treated with the plant hormones, a sterile growing media. The hormones stimulate the growth of a callus. What is callus? Callus is undifferentiated mass of cells called callus. A single cell producing whole plant. That's called as a totipotency, from which a new seedling can grow. This method used to produce large number of identical seedlings. In the interactive making a transgenic plant, the third step show how transgenic plants are developed in a lab using tissue culture and then grafted onto rootstock. See the picture? Some of the tissue culture plants for callus are some. Advantages of vegetative propagation. The main advantages of vegetative propagation method is that the new plants contain the genetic material of only one parent. So they are essentially clones of the parental plant. This means that once you have a plant with a desirable trait, you can reproduce the same traits identically as long as growing condition remains similar. This is especially important for commercial growers who want to reproduce the highest quality plant and ensure consistency of a variety of plants or crop for sale. This can also help to maintain consistent quantity or quality and taste is produced made from plants or crops. For example, in Zealand's tea plantation, they propagate new tea plant using cutting to ensure consistency in the taste and quality of their tea. With vegetative propagation, plants also bypass the immature seedling phases and therefore reach the mature phase sooner. This can save a lot of time and money for commercial plant production. For example, it takes 3 to 4 years of a tea plant to grow big enough from a cutting to be ready for harvesting and processing into tea. Growing from seeds would take even longer. Disadvantages of vegetative propagation. The main disadvantages is the potential to impact on biodiversity of a species. Also, if a particular plant clone is susceptible to certain disease, there is potential to lose entire crops, such as the impact of kiwi fruit disease, PASA. One way to protect against this problem is to establish a genetic bank of seed or plant, a germplasm collection, which is common practice in various crop sectors. The germplasm collection, they store the germ cells in liquid nitrogen for minus 196 degrees centigrade. Sexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, two parents are involved in producing a new individual. Offspring is produced by the fusion of gametes from each parent. Animal like dog, cat, lion, giraffe, human, etc. all reproduce sexually. Process of sexual reproduction. This fundamental process of reproduction is DNA replication. In other words, if an organism wants to continue its species, then they need to transfer their traits to the next generation by DNA. That's called as genetic information copying, which occur during the process of reproduction. We know asexual reproducing organism copy their DNA, divide themselves into a new cells which are their clones. Since the process of replication is not completely reliable, there are changes of variation, but they are quite limited. Organisms need to adapt themselves to the changing environment. The certain of variations need to be hastened for this reason. This will only happen when there is a union of two different DNAs. This highlights the significance of sexual reproduction in organism. If two reproducing cells simply the chromosome number in the new organism will be doubled. But this cannot happen because the number of chromosomes in each cell of every organism is fixed. The same hold good for the reproducing cells. Thus, the reproducing cells from both parents reduce their chromosome number into the half before fusion and are called gametes or germ cells. In simple organism, the size and shape of gametes are almost the same. But in higher organism, a male gamete is small and mobile, while female gametes is large, immobile, and they stored food for the fetus. The gametes are produced The gametes are produced in a specialized system called the reproductive system. Features of sexual reproduction. Two parents are individual, both male and a female. Gamete formation and fertilization take place. The whole process is slow and lengthy. The variation occurs. Offspring are different from parents genetically and physically. The advantages of asexual reproduction over sexual reproduction are a rapid rate of reproduction. Large number of offspring is formed if the environment is favorable, hence they reproduce at a rapid rate. More individuals are formed from a single cell in less time. Better chances of survival, since large number of offspring are formed, they have better chances of survival. The offspring produced are exactly identical to parent, so they retain the qualities of the parent cell. Sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Reproductive parts of flowers. The stem and pistil are the reproductive part of flowers. Stamen is the male reproductive part. It produces pollen grains in the anther, which contain the male gametes. Pistil is the female reproductive part. It produces ovules in the ovary, which contain the female germ cells or female gamete. The stamen is male reproductive parts. It producing for male gamete, two male gametes. The ovule is producing the ovary. The sperm cell and egg cells containing for haploid number of chromosomes. See the picture. The floral part is there. The floral part, pistil, stigma, style, ovary, and pedicel, receptacle, sepal, ovule which embryo sac, and petal. Petal is colorful, using for attracting for pollinators, filaments and anther, anther producing for stamen. Part of flowers. A typical flower consists of following parts. Sepal, it is the outermost fold of the flower. It is usually green in color, but in some flower it may be colored to attract insect. It protect the inner wall of flowers. Petals, it is the second wall of flower and consists of colored petals. Being colored in nature, they attract various insects and animals for pollination. Stamen, it is the male reproductive part of flower. Each stamen consists of stalk called filament and a filamented top called the anther. The anther produced pollen grains which produce male gamete. The pollen grains appear yellowish powder which stick to our hand. The male germ cell or the male gamete is producing by the pollen grains. Carpel. Carpel have a swollen ovary at the base and elongated middle style and the terminal stigma. The ovary consists ovule. Each ovule possesses an egg which is the female gamete. And type of sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is of two types. Syngamy. This is completely a permanent fusion of two haploid gametes to form a diploid zygote. When the two fission gametes are morphologically and physiologically similar to each other, the process is called isogamy. Monocystis example, when two organisms themselves act as a gametes is called hologamy in yeast. conjugation. This is the temporary pairing of two parents to exchanging male and female gamete through a temporary cytoplasmic bridge. Example, ciliated protozoan like paramecium. In majority of animals, including human being, male and female individuals are separate. The individual may be either male or female. Such organisms are called unisexual. They have only one sex in one or individual. Some plants are also unisexual. Example, papaya, cucurbits, etc. But majority of flowering plants and a few animals like tapeworm, earthworm, garden snail, starfish, etc. are bisexual or hermaphrodites. Example, each individual has both male and female sex organs. Next class, we are discuss about the structure of anther, development of microspore, development of male gametophyte, and female reproductive units, and megasporogenesis, types of ovule, pollination, and fertilization.